Welcome back. All right, Jets fans, here we are, and we're all set for another season. Now, I'm going to say straight out, I am wearing the jersey design that they had in the early 90s. I would love to see a throwback to this, so I'm going ahead and I'm using the season preview to once again pitch the idea that this was a nice logo and a nice design, and it'd be nice to see them use it as a third heritage throwback. Something surprised me. All right, and not to insinuate that I don't like their current heritage jersey. It's fantastic. Just I think both logos are nice. So the Winnipeg Jets had a good season and then they didn't. They had a good season. They get all the way through to the playoffs. In the playoffs, they had a great first round, and then in the second round, it came to a screeching halt. So you're kind of left with a team that is you have to be glass half full, glass half empty on this, right? Glass half full, you say, yeah, this team's still close. They still got pretty much the same lineup they had last year. They're going to be competitive. And if you're glass half empty, you say, wow, did Montreal expose some things with them? So I'm on the glass half full side of things. I don't think they're that far off. That's for the regular season. I do still see them as a playoff team. I think they're going to have a good year. That being said, we'll take a look at things here. Starting with special teams, they were 7th on the power play at even, 23%. On the penalty kill, 80.5%, which was 13th overall. Their goals for 170, which was 12th. Their goals against 152, which was 10th. So everything a little bit above average and nothing really to complain too much about. You know, do you want more goals? Probably. Are you going to get them this year? You should. But it's going to really come down to Dubois, isn't it? If Dubois has a huge bounce back season, Winnipeg could be very impressive. If Dubois has another year like he had last year, that opens the door for a Cole Perfetti to jump in and steal that spot. So we look at their notable draft picks since 2015, and it kind of reflects that this team is middle of the road a lot of these years. But some smart draft picks. Starting with 2015, where they got Connor at 17. Can thank the Bruins for that. Roslovic at 25. Roslovic, of course, now traded to Columbus. Harkins at 47. Appleton at 168. Of course, he exits for Seattle. And Niku at 198. In 2016, they drafted Laine at second. He's gone to Columbus. And Logan Stanley at 18. Stanley, it took him a while to get there, but he is very impressive. 2017, they drafted Vesalainen at 24. This may be his best chance to get a regular roster spot this year that he's had since his draft year. And Sandberg at 43, who ends up spending the entire season in the AHL. We'll see if he moves up to the NHL this year at all. 2018, the earliest they drafted was Gustafsson at 60. 2019, they drafted Heinola at 20. That was their first of 5 picks. 2020, they drafted Perfetti at number 10. That was their first of 4 picks in the draft. And 2021, they draft Chaz Lucius at 18. And that was the first of 4 picks in this year's draft. So they had 8 draft picks in the last 2 years. That's less than I think Carolina's had in the second round over the last couple of years. So like it's interesting how they've gone about it, because they've kind of pushed away draft picks and they're going into that win now mode, but are they good enough to win a Stanley Cup? The odds makers would say no, and we'll have to see. So their exits, the aforementioned Appleton. Brossoit leaves after some very good years as their backup goaltender. Matthew Perreault leaves for Montreal. Tucker Pullman's moved to Vancouver. And Brian Little, I have in red because he's on LTIR. Odds are he probably doesn't play again. And while they're over the cap, a lot of that gets fixed with Little going on LTIR. New faces, Luke Johnson, Riley Nash, Brendan Dillon, Nate Schmidt. There's enough changes here that I'm impressed with what they've done with their blue line. They knew that they needed to fix their blue line. The odd part of that is that their penalty kill and their goals against were both pretty good, but they needed to fix their blue line. So we'll take a look at the last 3 years that they've had. 2018, 2019, 47, 30, and 5, second in the Central. And then they lost in the first round to St. Louis, a series where no team won a home game until Game 6, where St. Louis won it. 2019-2020, they were 37, 28, and 6, fifth in the Central, and they lost in the qualifying round against Calgary. And that was where Calgary basically bullied them out of the playoffs. And it was an impressive series by Calgary, and it kind of exposed how thin the Jets were in their overall talent pool up front, which they've been working on addressing since then. Because you knock a couple of guys out of their lineup and they're done. That's how it looked anyways in the 2020 playoffs. 2020, 2021, they finished 30, 23, and 3. They were third in the North. And of course, they lost in round 2 to the aforementioned Montreal Canadiens. And the Jets, their forward group is overall excellent. And I know Scheifele's got to finish out the suspension, and that's going to probably dog him around a little bit to start the season. But that's not who he is as a player, so I would expect that to pass. And he should be in the middle of a line with Connor and Wheeler. Now, Blake Wheeler, is he going to see less ice time this year? He probably should. Do I think he will? You're going to have to ask Paul Maurice. But Maurice did show towards the end of the season he's open to cutting back the ice time of Wheeler if it helps the team. Stastny, Dubois, Ehlers, pretty good top 6. And then you get Andrew Kopp. Andrew Kopp proved he can produce, and we'll see which spot he gets this year if he fights his way into a top 6 role. Lowry, Vesalainen. As mentioned, this might be Vesalainen's best chance to be a regular. Harkins, Nash, and Tony Nato. And I think Tony Nato is a decent fourth-line option. Glad they kept him. Luke Johnson, David Gustafsson. Cole Perfetti is there. Cole Perfetti, again, is going to be waiting to see if maybe Wheeler does have a major fallback that we see in training camp, and Perfetti gets a major spot. Maybe Stastny has that fallback, and maybe Dubois has another down season underway. Perfetti will be there to jump on a spot as soon as he can. And Pagansky, who played some games last year, is also on the depth chart. Over on the blue line side of things, they have expanded the amount of talent on this blue line. They'll miss Pullman, however. They now have Schmidt, and Nate Schmidt had a down year with Vancouver. But, again, I think with a normal regular season this year, Schmidt should bounce back. You have Morrissey, Schmidt, Dillon, Pionk. As a top 4, that's pretty good. And then you have Logan Stanley and Dylan DeMello as that third pairing defense. DeMello is excellent defensively, and Stanley is a beast. Absolute beast. We're going to see him develop into, I think, a pretty good top 4 defenseman. And then that leaves Beaulieu, Niku, Heinola, Sandberg, and Kovacevic, deciding who's going to get that number 7 spot. And obviously it would lean towards Beaulieu. I really think if Sami Niku's going to get a shot at a regular job in the NHL, it's not going to happen in Winnipeg. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope they prove me wrong. But I think Niku's going to have to get moved if he's going to get a regular spot in an NHL job. And then, really, the key to them having a good season and living up to my prediction of second in the Central, it's Connor Hellebuyck. With the loss of Brossoit, that leaves Comrie, at the time I'm recording this, as the backup. Now, Devin Dubnyk's still out there. Do they eventually find a way to bring in Dubnyk, maybe? That's possible. But I think they're going to give Comrie a shot at the backup job, and Berdine is there as the number 3 if things don't work out with Comrie. Prospects, most of their good young players are already on the roster, so I put Chaz Lucius there as one of as their most prominent prospect. But I really think their forward depth, and again, as long as Hellebuyck's healthy, there's no reason to think that the Winnipeg Jets won't be in the mix for potentially first in the division. I think they're going to surprise some people because, again, the North was kind of a throwaway, right? And that was the argument all year was the North's terrible. Well, the North's terrible. Well, yeah, those Canadian teams, that one has a good record, but the North is terrible. I think there's going to be some Canadian teams that maybe remember that and maybe, especially early in the season, go out there trying to prove themselves, and we'll see if Winnipeg is one of those teams. I think they will be. The Stanley Cup odds on them, not good, 40-1. Those are relatively long odds considering their overall record, their overall roster and everything, and having Connor Hellebuyck in net. I'm surprised that the odds are that poor for them. But I kind of understand because other than the conference finals in 2018, there hasn't been a lot to write home about. The Winnipeg Jets, though they haven't spun their wheels the way they did in the 80s and early 90s before they moved to Arizona, they really need to go on a run. I really think they need to go on a run. We'll see if this is the year. There is a perception that maybe the Central's a little bit easier than it was a couple years back, and so maybe Winnipeg takes advantage of that. Their schedule is weird, Anaheim and Winnipeg finish up with each other in October. The Jets start the season in Anaheim on the 13th. Then they're in San Jose on the 16th. They're in Minnesota on the 19th. So there's a lot of days in between those games. Then they're at home against Anaheim on the 21st. Yeah, it's weird. 23rd, they're at home against Nashville. Then on the 26th, they're in Anaheim. So it's almost as if they're like, why don't we echo last season and make fans tired of seeing the same team all the time? Yeah, let's do it that way. So, yeah, it's weird. It could be building availability and just this is the way the schedule works. 28th, they're then in LA. And the 30th, they're in San Jose again. So they have both of their road games in San Jose and Anaheim in the month of October. They have 3 games against Anaheim in October, 2 against San Jose. They have Minnesota, Nashville. And this is the kind of schedule that could get them a bunch of points early. Winnipeg should have a very good record coming out of the month of October. I really think they should be second overall in that division. But we'll see what happens. Again, Hellebuyck. If he's still a world beater, if he's still one of the best goalies in the league, they're good. If he has trouble staying healthy, or if he has some kind of inconsistency in his game this year, and goalies can be unpredictable that way from season to season, then that could spell trouble for the Winnipeg Jets. But just with the amount of forwards they can put out there, the amount of goals they should get this year, this team should outscore any kind of problems they may have in other parts of their game. And they could have a very good power play. 7th last year, they could be top 5 this year. But that's my thought. What's your thought regarding the Winnipeg Jets as we close out the season previews for 2021-2022? The season previews used to be like just the best performing of all the videos I did during the summer. The channel has definitely evolved. So that's not necessarily the case now. However, I really enjoy putting these together. I really enjoy doing previews. I feel like it's Christmas when you're getting into a brand new season. You have no idea what you're going to get from one day to the next. And it's just fun to watch it happen. And it is fun, whether you're right or you're wrong about predictions. For me anyways, if my predictions are wrong, that's perfectly cool. If they're right, cool, don't care. It is just a lot of fun to look over all these rosters, see where changes are, and see where the kids might come in and where some of the veterans might come out, that kind of thing, and try to predict that before it takes place. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the Winnipeg Jets, where they might finish and why. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through and just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.